Okay. All right, everybody. Good evening. This is a special meeting of the Board of Assessment Appeals. I'm Peter Rupert, currently the chair of this committee. Here tonight with me are new members, Helene Daly, Paulette Cuso, and Carol Langland, and Kathleen Griffin also is newly elected, reappointed to the board, re-elected to the board. Yeah. So, do I need to go through the agenda items?
Yeah, you can do that. It's just because this is Kathleen, because the public can dial in and listen. You just need to identify yourself before you speak so that they know who everybody is.
Okay. Yeah. So this, actually, I probably should say, this meeting started about 5:07 p.m. on December 7th. So, thank you all for being willing to serve on this committee. As you know, last year was a very busy time. I believe we had over 40 deliberation meetings. We had over 650 actual hearings. So it was a very busy time, let's just say that. And, you know, the year after a reval can sometimes be similarly busy. All right. So any of the new members, would you like to say anything before we begin?
Hi, I'm Carol Langland. I'm very happy to be here. I'm looking forward to working with everyone together, especially in our crunch period, which is going to be, I guess, February and March. And I'm actually excited. I was reading through the handbook, and believe it or not, it was exciting to me. That's frightening, probably.
Just press it and hold it. You want to speak?
I don't think you have to.
Yeah, there's little microphones on the table. Yeah, so you can probably just put it down. I don't think.
Yeah,
unless you press it and hold it.
Oh, I thought they were just picking up everybody no matter what. You don't even have to touch it.
So this is Helene Daly. I'm back on. Don't know why, but I am. No, I was on 6 years, did a 4-year term and a 2-year term. I'm back on, and I'm happy to serve the town of Fairfield. And I think realtors have a unique perspective to give to the board, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm Paulette Cuso. I'm also happy to be back. I served 4 years previously, and then this year for the reval period, I was asked to fill in for someone, so I was glad I had the opportunity to do that. And I'm very happy to be back, and I thank everyone who voted for me.
All right. Kathleen, did you want to add anything?
No, I just, welcome the ones I've worked with before, since I've worked with both Paulette and Helene, and Carol, welcome to the board. Nice to have you here. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. All right. So our first order of business tonight is election of officers. And so I'm opening up the floor to any nominations.
I have a question. Do we do them in order, or are we just nominating for anything and then we vote later?
We're going to just do the chair first, and then...
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I nominate Paulette Cuso to be chairperson of the board.
Okay. And are there any other nominations? All right. I nominate Kathleen Griffin for chair of the board. And I'm just wanted to just say, I think Kathleen is very strong organizational skills for this position. It's a very difficult position, very familiar with Robert's rules. She's always conducted herself very professionally in the years that I've been on this board working with her. She focuses on keeping, the meetings moving and allowing all voices to be heard. So that's just something why I'm voting for or nominating her for chair. All right. Seeing no more nominations, I guess we are going to call all those in favor of Paulette as chair. Please raise your hand. Okay. All those in favor, well, I guess, should I read the vote?
I would,
Currently?
just because for the
Sure.
public, because they can't
Sure.
hear who's
Okay.
here. Yeah.
All right, so there were 3 votes for Paulette, Helene, and Carol, all voting affirmatively. And all those in favor of Kathleen for chair, please raise your hand. All right. There are 2 votes for Kathleen, Peter and Kathleen both voting for Kathleen. All right. Okay, so at this point,
I think the new chair takes over and continues and does the rest of the nominations and the rest of the meeting, right?
Okay, thank you.
This is Kathleen, sorry.
So the next would be nominations for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Helene Daly if she's willing to be the vice chair. Accept that nomination.
I do.
Are there any other nominations? No? I guess we'll vote. All in favor of Helene as vice chair for the Board of Assessment Appeals, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Ready? Next will be secretary. Any nominations for secretary? Yes.
I nominate Kathleen Griffin as secretary.
Okay.
Again, just looking at her organizational skills, her familiarity with the process of putting up minutes and all that entails in that, very busy role. So.
Thank you. I nominate Carol Langland. All in favor of Kathleen Griffin as secretary, please raise your hand.
Are there any other
Oh,
nominations?
any other nominations? I'm sorry. Okay. All those in favor of Kathleen Griffin, please raise your hand. That's Peter and Kathleen. All those in favor of Carol Langland, please raise your hand. Helene, Carol, and Paulette. Kathleen, thank you for your service over the years. You've done a great job.
Thank you. And this is Kathleen, and Carol, I'm happy to help you with any of the merge forms or any of the documents.
And I
that we've
welcome
got
it.
out
Thank
there.
you very
There's hundreds
much.
of them, so
Thank you.
happy to send them your way.
Okay, next is adopting 2022 calendar of meetings, proposed schedule. Who wants to speak about that?
So this is Kathleen. I have it. I don't know if everybody has it up. I also printed a copy if you want
I'll take a copy.
to see it. Yeah,
Please.
everybody else. So these are, this is Kathleen. I basically took the dates from last year and just did pretty much the same times and, Peter. The same times and dates I did last year. We met on Saturdays, so I went ahead and added the Saturday ones in as well. Last year we ended up meeting into May, but hopefully that won't be the case this year. And what ends up happening if you don't approve your meetings now is that April and May become all special meetings. So you can't approve minutes, and there's certain you have to have a very specific agenda for those meetings. So it'd be my recommendation to, at this point in time, approve more dates and times than less. And then if we decide we want to cancel them, then you can, just send the town clerk a notice changing the, either canceling the meetings or making them later. Because if you make a meeting earlier, it becomes a special meeting, you got to notice it differently, just gets more complicated. So I loaded it up with as much as I've done in the past. But feel free to change it, make, I think this is a discussion, right, on the calendar, and then we'll vote on the calendar, so. And whether,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, and whether we need another meeting in January or February, to get people acclimated or not, that would be up to, we can, in the past, we have not done that, but we certainly can add another one. The February 22nd one is right after all of the paperwork will have been filed. I believe the appellants have to file no later than February 20th. Mm-hmm. So by the 22nd, we will know how many appeals we're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
So.
This is Paul, and I have a question. I don't know if you know the answer. I probably have to ask Russ, but you brought up the date of February 20th, so that reminded me. They have to be filed by the appellate by February 20th. But I don't see any provision anywhere in the state statutes or in anywhere else about what happens when that date falls on a weekend. Because it does. So do they get till the 22nd because it's Saturday, Sunday that they lose, or do you not get that you just lose and it has to be on the 18th in order to be done by the 20th? So I think I'll ask Russ that later.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. It's always been the practice in his office, to make it the day before, because the statute says no later than February 20th. So it doesn't say excluding holidays. So it's always been, and it's very well noticed to the public, that, look, you got to have it in by the 19th. The website, all the documents usually say the earlier date. But that's how it typically, that's how it's always been. And I think most other towns do it that way as well.
But I only bring it up because you think about it, the IRS doesn't publish either, but they give you the extra day when that 15th falls on a weekend.
Right.
So I just thought I'd ask.
True.
So, and maybe it can't be, maybe that's the way it is. It does say in the statutes, you're right. So it's possible that there isn't gonna be any, I just thought I'd clarify that.
This is Helene. Is there any reason why we have our evening meetings ending at 9? Did you change that when?
Go ahead.
I mean, typically, for 6 years, we went, sometimes we'd be here till 11, 12. We don't plan on that, but if we're expanding it to as many hours or days as possible, maybe we should expand those hours, because I think it's very likely that we'll be here past 9 o'clock on some nights.
Mrs. Paul, I agree, because we did it that way, but I thought this past one, that we couldn't, we weren't in the building, so I don't know what it was it people couldn't, could Ross not be in the building, and that's where the recording comes from, and so,
Well,
it was tough. I don't know what the rule is about that. We have to check that out.
This is Kathleen. So the reason that we put 4 to 9 primarily is because those times are for hearings and or deliberations, and typically, we don't know how many nights of hearings we're gonna have. So typically, for the public's purpose, those are 4 to 9, because we usually don't hear them past 9 o'clock at night. So, but if you want to publish it at 10 or 11, I don't think the town clerk even puts the end time up. Okay. I do know for the September one, the automobile appeals, that Ross, had recommended that we do put a stop time of 6, so the public knows they have to come between 5 and 6. Last time we didn't done that.
As long as that is for the purpose of hearings, but it's not restricting us from going past 9 o'clock for deliberations.
Excuse me, this is Paul, it will if we publish it this way, because then the public has to know that they can listen until a certain time, right?
Yeah, this is Kathleen, or you
Maybe we should be specific.
We can say, yeah, that's what I'm saying, we should be specific.
Hearings till 9, deliberations till.
Yeah, typically, most meetings do not have a stop time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, this is mostly because of the hearings and, for the slotting of all the appellants in, that seemed to make sense. I mean, I also know, I believe the typical stop time is 11 o'clock. I don't know if that's just the RTM,
yeah.
Right, but then you have to make a motion to go, you can extend it, someone makes the motion, so we could always do that, you can do that on the nights where you want to go past 9, totally up to you.
Can we just say evening hearings, 4 to 9, deliberations, 4 to 11?
Yeah, or 4 to, and, and 9.
Okay.
Yeah, however you guys want to word it, totally fine. Yeah, those just get submitted to the town clerk along with the officers.
And then this is Paula, and then for the hearings, when I do it, I can't start at 9 o'clock. I can start at 10. I'm not available to start at 9. On any day that I'm assigned to hearings, I don't know that matters, because that's just for the individual taxpayer. That's not a group thing, so.
Again, yeah, they are noticed meetings, and we have to do agendas for all those hearings. So you have to publish an agenda for the hearings. So again, if you do it at 10 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, you have 4 hearings from 9 to 10, you decide someone wants to start earlier, then you got to publish 2 different agendas, one for 9 o'clock and one for, because it becomes a special meeting. So that's why, even if we say it's 9 o'clock, but no one's available till 10, then when you publish the agenda has the schedule of whose hearings are that morning. So it just says 10 o'clock in room 1 is this person, room 2 is this person or whatever. Often there's gaps. Sometimes the hearings end, an hour early because you only have 3 hearings on a morning. Like I said, it's just easier to be broader because then you don't run into the annoyance of having to make it a special meeting. been my,
And, well, I'll wait till we get to that. I won't talk about that. I'll wait till we get to the part about the FOI stuff. Okay. So as long as we can do that, that's fine. Anyone else have any more comments or discussion about, the calendar for now? Because we have to do a calendar.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. So I would just say the organizational meeting tonight, because we made it at 6 o'clock on, a year ago when we set the calendar. Again, I was copying it from last year. We made it at 6, so we had, making it tonight at 5, made it a special meeting, and, so do we want to change that to 5?
I would
Recommend that.
I would recommend that
Yeah.
because we can always,
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can make that for 5 o'clock, and then, yeah.
Okay.
And often, if we were gonna start our meetings late, because sometimes on the nights that this is Kathleen, did deliberations, we didn't start at 4, we started at 6, because that's when we could get a quorum. So we just published a notice on the website.
Okay.
And that's what the public requested, so the secretary just put up a notice on the website that says, where hearings tonight aren't gonna start until 6 o'clock, so that people aren't on the line listening at 4 o'clock saying, where is everybody? I'm here, no one's here. So within 24 hours of that generally was the practice that the public got used to last year, was checking the website to see what time the meeting date was for deliberations, because then it's just easy just to do the, an agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Number 5, discussion of town clerk FOI letter.
This is Kathleen, sorry, Paulette. I think we need to vote on the meeting dates, or do you want to postpone the vote on that till later?
I guess we might as well vote on them because, we can always shorten it later. The idea was we needed to get as many in there so we don't have to do a special meeting later, right?
This is Kathleen. Yes, you submit cancellation notices to the town clerk when you take them off the calendar,
Okay,
if you're canceling them all together.
All right. So why don't we do that? Why don't we vote on that? So all in favor of accepting the dates posted, the dates that are in the minutes
with the changes.
with the changes?
Can you state those changes?
No, can you?
Yeah, hi, this is Carol. My notes say that we will do evening hearings from 4 until 9, and we will do evening deliberations from 4 up to potentially 11 p.m., and that the organizational meeting is for next year, December 6th, is changed from 6 to 5.
Thank you. Okay. We ready for the next one? Discussion of town clerk FOI letter and Article 11, Town Charter Standards of Conduct.
Excuse me, did you vote on that?
Yeah, I think we have to vote.
This is awfully cumbersome.
All in favor?
All right, all in favor of accepting the schedule as Carol just described it and as we discussed it, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Number 5, discussion of town clerk FOI letter and Article 11 of Town Charter Standards of Conduct. Okay, that's what we got from Betsy. Okay. I looked at both of them, and let's talk about standards of conduct first. That's easier. So did anybody print that out? I only have one copy, but if you want to look at it if you want. I highlighted a couple of things, and first of all, everybody get a chance to look at it.
Trying to pull it up again, but
From
yeah.
Betsy.
Sent this. It was in Kathleen's or Peter's, somebody's email, but there was a section where you could click on it and it was there.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. It's also linked on the agenda, so if you have the agenda up on the website, you can just click on the link for that item, and it will bring you to the letter. It's also in the backup on the board page.
Let me know when you have it up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think most of us know what the standards of practice should be, standards of conduct should be, but under number 11-1, there's a section near the bottom that the elected officials are the agents of the public purpose and shall hold their office and positions for the benefit of the public, shall recognize that the public interest is the primary concern, shall faithfully discharge the duties of the office regardless of personal consideration. So they mentioned more than once that we are here for the public. We're not here for the town, we're not here for the assessor or the first selectman. And by the way, they have no control over us. We're not ruled by the selectmen, or the assessor. We really report to the Office of Policy and Management at the state level. There is an ethics committee that somebody could be brought to if there were questions. Somebody wasn't satisfied or thought somebody wasn't following the rules, but that's as far as that goes. But we're here for them. We're not here to either enlarge or support the grand list. We're here to be fair. The public comes first. That's the way I read it. And then on the 11.4, fair and equitable treatment, we have to remember that whether we're RTM or whatever board or commission you're on, you use your position to secure, we will not use the position to secure any special considerations, treatments, advantages, privileges, or exempt ourselves from any provisions. So just remember that we can't treat ourselves any differently or treat each other any differently than we treat the public. I think those are the two most important things as far as getting into trouble. That's something that we don't want to be having happen. We have an issue here, though, with people recusing themselves. If you were to recuse yourself, you have to think really hard about that before you do it. You have to really have a good reason. If you really don't think that you can vote fairly because of, you know, the person too well, they're a family member, whatever, think hard about it, because there are only 5 of us. In a tie situation, the homeowner will lose. It's the way it works. The motion doesn't carry, and so the town wins. So if you can't do it, you can't do it. You have to recuse yourself, but I wouldn't do it lightly, because there's no way to have an outcome that could favor anybody but the town. And that's really, to me, that's a conflict of interest. So if you can't do it, then you can't. But I would think hard about whether or not you can really be fair in every situation. Those are the things that I thought were the most important on here. If anybody else has any ideas, go right ahead.
This is Peter.
Yes.
Yeah, so just as far, you know, I mean, I'm totally in agreement with you, but I just want to make sure that, you know, when we talk about the public, we're talking about the public as the public that makes appeals and also the public that has not appealed, because the decisions that we make here affects every citizen in the town. Okay?
That's true, but they're not here. The person who was coming with their appeal is. So I would not, you know, everybody has their own idea, and I'm not going to tell people what to do. But when I look at it as Joe Smith came in here because he says he's agreed because of this. I can't really think about the fact that he's looking for a $200,000 reduction in his assessment or his appraisal. That cannot be the reason why I don't grant it. I need to grant it if it's right. If it's wrong, it doesn't get granted. If we can prove that he is wrong, that value is correct, then we are looking out for everybody. But if it's that, you know, I don't want to do that because it's just too much money, that's wrong. Because if he's over-assessed, then he's over-assessed.
Sure. Well, when you know, and again, I agree, they have to make their case. This is Peter, they have to make their case, you know, a clear case. And, you know, but, you know, to that same point, you know, I get my assessment. I say, all right, you know, this seems fair. I'm willing to, you know, pay this much. And now all of a sudden, you know, this board has granted many of the appeals, and now my assessment is no longer fair, in my opinion. So that's what I'm just trying to say. You know, we you know, definitely we have people coming here who are making their case. That's what we need to do, be impartial and listen to those. But we also need to keep in mind that there is a public out there that will be impacted by our decision making right here.
And that's a good point, and you're right. However, if you think about it in a bigger picture, your assessment was then, not your assessment, but your taxes are wrong. Because if his are wrong, and then the rest of us have to pay extra, then it was wrong. It's still wrong. It never should have been that way, I guess is what I'm saying. Had it been done correctly, your taxes would have been higher right from the beginning, as mine, as anybody's. But if, you know, we can't say, well, now my taxes are going up. They never should have been what they were if that had been assessed properly. You would have known earlier that your number was going to be higher. And it creates a problem. When big mistakes are made, yeah, you're right. I don't want to see the mill rate go another 3 or 4 mills because we have to make up all that money. But if it shouldn't have been there in the first place, then there's a problem not here. It's somewhere else. And that should be looked at. So. And by the way, Peter, I didn't thank you for your years of service, so thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a...
This is Helene. I understand both points, and because this is an appeals board, we are making decisions about the appellant and their case that they bring forward. It may very well be that the person right next door would also have a case if in fact they brought it to the board. But if they don't, then we don't have that opportunity to listen to that appeal. So I don't think we can look at it as a whole that, well, it's not fair to everybody else. Well, everyone has the opportunity to come to the board. And if that neighbor or the person down the street finds that, they're somebody in their neighborhood got an appeal granted, well, then next year that they can come to us if they feel that they have, the same case or similar case. But I think we need to just pay attention to the appellants that come to the board.
And this is Paula.
First and foremost.
I agree. And the other thing is, Peter, I understand your point, but unfortunately, had that not been wrongly appraised and assessed, you would have known earlier on that your taxes were going to be higher. And you're right. Maybe you would say, okay, that sounds fair to me. Now all of a sudden the mill rate's up. Now my taxes are too high. It's unfortunate that it happens because then that affects all of us. Then we're all paying more than we thought we were going to pay because somebody made a mistake somewhere else.
Okay. Well, just Peter, I just wanted to make sure that we're not prejudging before someone comes in and presents a case. It is still their responsibility to prove their case, to bring, the evidence. So, we can't say something's wrongly decided until we hear their evidence.
Absolutely, I agree. I have no problem with that. That's true. Okay. Any other discussion or questions about that part of it, about the standards of conduct? Anything? No? Now, FOI. I'll be honest, I have serious issues with the FOI thing. I listened to the things that Peter sent over to us. That guy was kind of long-winded, but I got the point. I just have some issues with the way it's, not so much the way it's written, it's the way it's interpreted. So one of the things that I have as an issue is the fact that we have to record, or we had recorded, we're going to do it this time, we record the individual sessions that we have with the taxpayer. To me, that is not an FOI-able meeting. It's one taxpayer and one member of the board. It is not a quorum, it is not a group, it is not a majority. Nobody else in town has the right to your personal business. Somebody came in there and said to me, oh my God, my session's too high, I can't take it, my husband lost his job, we're going back. The public has no right to hear that. That's private individual information. They don't have the right to that. And they don't have the right to hear somebody's appeal. They have the right to listen to us deliberate about it later in a group. The only reason they have that right is because we are in a group. I called Office of Policy and Management, and I got a voicemail back from a Mr. Murray, I think his name was. I have it on my phone. And his interpretation is that if it's one-on-one, it is not something that has to be recorded or has to be live. In a group, yes. So I have to do some more digging about that to see what we're going to do for when we have to do hearings. But the hearings, my feeling was, and then he confirmed it, that those do not have to be, public is not invited to that in any way, shape, or form. They never were. How many years were we on the board?
So, Helene, I was going to ask you, when did you start doing that?
Because of COVID, we did it because people couldn't come in. I guess because it's posted, the idea is that people could come. We don't sell them to come, but
we never did that before.
But no, you know what though? We never did it because we never put it into effect because nobody ever came. Why would you come? You don't want to hear that? But I guess the
Wait, you mean, are we talking about recording hearings?
Hearings, not deliberations.
Right.
Hearings.
Right.
Yeah.
We never
recorded them, but now they're being recorded or they're live. What do we do this time? Kathleen?
Ms. Kathleen, yes. Because of the executive orders in place with COVID, we were required to have everyone be live so that members of the public could dial in and listen to the hearings. And then we are also required to record them and upload them to the website. So we had a phone recording in each one of the conference rooms. And also so board members could go back and listen if they didn't take good notes, or other board members, if it was a controversial hearing, could go back and listen to the testimony as opposed to just relying on the notes that one person took. But some of us heard 100 appeals, right? So if you heard 100 people and you're not deliberating for 3 weeks on it, sometimes it's helpful to go back and listen. So there were some positive reasons for that, other than I believe they are public hearings. That's why we're noticing them. And the only reason why a meeting isn't a public meeting unless you're in executive session, and I don't believe our hearings are executive session hearings. I could be wrong, but they're not executive session, and therefore it's considered a public meeting. We could all hear them all together, then it's definitely a meeting of the board, or 3 people could hear it, that's a quorum. So I think just because of the volume, some BAAs will hear the whole board hears it, and then they just decide that night. They hear 10, they decide on 10. They hear another 10, they decide. For us, the volume was significant enough that's not really, maybe we're going to get lucky this year and we get 100, and then we can all do it that way, but we won't know until we get them. So, but that's why we recorded them last year, because we were required to, and that's why also the public was, because the public didn't have to come in to listen in the room, they could call in on, and they did. They called in and listened to the appeals. There were people on the calls most of the time listening to
the hearings.
Listen to the hearings.
I was going to ask you that. Wow.
Sure.
Really?
Yeah. And this is Kathleen. I also believe that if there was a hearing in a room, again, we have to agenda every hearing. We have to say whose hearing is at what time, and that has to be published to the website. And all of the documentation that they submit in support of their appeal also has to be uploaded to the website, linked onto the agenda so that the public can click and see what the public, what the appellant has. So it's a very transparent process, and in particular during COVID, because people, aren't required, they can have access to public meetings from their homes. And I believe the executive order is probably going to still be in place, and, even Town Hall here is still doing hybrid. We just happened to do in-person hearings last year because the public really wanted it. They wanted to appeal in person. They did not want to appeal over Zoom. So we held them, with those dividers and with, but that was, I'm pretty sure they're public meetings and they have to follow the rules of SLI.
So this is Helene. Do we know how we're going to proceed in 2022 with hearings?
This is Kathleen. I would assume that as long as the executive order is still in place, that we would use the same procedures that we used last year. And whether we as a board decide we don't want to offer people in person, but it was a lot easier to do it in person, I would say, than trying to teach. That was the other part, was to try to have the public figure out how to come into your hearing at, 7 p.m. and then they come in the waiting room while you're still hearing somebody else and you're trying to turn them off and they want to know, am I on the right meeting?
So in person, we don't have to record it?
No, we did. We
have to record.
Yeah, so like 50%, this is Kathleen, 50% of the hearings, well, actually probably 85% were in person, and you had your list of who you were hearing, and then when you got to number 7, that person wanted a telephone call. So we had a separate phone, called them on the phone, they were on the speaker phone, they got recorded on that call, into your recording that was going on in the room. And it's just like this, it's a phone like this that we press the numbers, and they gave us all our own conference lines. You come in, you turn on your phone, you start your recording, and then and if I'm calling someone who didn't want to come in, because we had to offer them that in case they didn't want to, you call them on the phone, put them on speaker, hear their appeal, and you hang up the phone, and then then they bring the next client up, the next appellant up from downstairs.
It's a cumbersome process.
It was, and we had 650 of them, so it was, an organization.
I'm not clear why we did it, when we never did it before. What was the reason?
The executive orders, this is Kathleen, the executive orders in place under from the governor. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'm pretty sure they're currently going on right now.
Right.
They're still in place, and I doubt that they're going to end. But like I said, the other part of the positive about having them recorded was that you could go back. Sometimes I would go to present, I'm like, my notes were okay, but they weren't great, and there were some details or things on the field card, so I would go back and re-listen to my hearings before I presented it to the board to make sure I wasn't, not telling the truth, whatever, making something up or missed something important that the client, that the appellant had said, so.
This is Helene. I don't have a problem with it either way. I just don't think we should belabor it this way.
Yeah, but that's the reason why we probably have to do it again this year, is my guess. It took a couple months to get a good system in place to get it working, but for the number of appeals we heard last year, we had we had 4 rooms going, we had, someone checking them in at the desk downstairs from the assessor's office.
So this-
it functioned
Sure.
pretty well.
This is Peter. I would just, and again, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to find out more from what that gentleman you spoke with. But, the assessments are public record. So I can't see how then the actual hearing, when someone's, contesting their assessment, would not also, be open to the public. So.
Yeah, would be bringing up this is Carol, the same personal issues if it was, not that it's relevant, but if we felt it was relevant to bring it up when we heard the hearing, we'd be bringing it up in the deliberation anyway, so.
We'll see, we have time, so, I'll look at the executive order. I'll, go back to this guy at the Office of Policy Management, and I'll see if I can figure out if there's an easier way. I'm just looking for an easier way. The way it used to be was easy, so I'm just looking for an easier way. If it's doable, if it can't be done, I'm certainly not gonna break the law. Although it's only up to $1,000 fine, so it's almost, no, I'm kidding. I thought it was some big major fine, but it's not. But I'm certainly not gonna break the law, so we'll do whatever we have to do, the easiest possible way we can do it.
Okay.
That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
All right, so let's see now. Okay, number 6, discussion of possible vote on whether we will conduct hearings on commercial property, industrial, blah, 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 or greater than 1 million. This comes up every year. According to state statutes, the board does not have to hear appeals for those properties other than residential that are valued at over $1 million. So that's our choice to make. So we can open up a quick discussion about that. Anybody have anything they want to say about that?
So this is Kathleen. I just want to say I read the, I don't know if it's in the statutes or someplace, but even if we don't hear them, they still have to fill out their paperwork if they want to go straight to court. Mm-hmm. The other thing is we don't have to let them know until March 1st that we're not going to hear them. So we may, if you think about it, you may want to see what comes in, and then on March, and we can postpone the vote until February 22nd, and then we can decide on that day. If there's only 10 commercials and they're small family businesses and we feel like we want to hear them, we could make that, in other words, we don't have to make this decision now because they don't need, regardless, they have to fill out their forms by the 20th. And then that we have to let them know by March 1st whether we're going to hear them or not. And if we don't hear them, they get a pass and they go right to court. If we do hear them, I don't think we can selectively hear some and not others. Right. Last year we got 200 and I don't know how many. We got a lot of commercials, but it's also the best year for them to come because if they get a tax break, then they get a 5-year break. So that's why a lot of them come in. So regardless, they're going to have to they have to fill out the paperwork to Ross. That's my understanding. They can't skip that step.
This is Paul, I just felt that when it got over $1 million, so if it's $1,200,000, that's not that big a deal. But one in particular that comes to my mind is the one for whatever that motel is on the Best Western. Mm-hmm. My God, what's that, $20 million? I'm sorry, but I am not qualified to talk about a motel with taxes like that, or a value of $20 million. I don't know how you feel about it, but
yeah,
because like you said, we can't just do one and not the other. We can't do a $3 million one and one.
Under $1 million, we can.
Under $1 million,
we have to do.
Right. But I just don't see why any of us are equipped with that kind of knowledge. And they came with appraisals and so I don't understand that.
Yeah, so we could decide, this is Kathleen Lamb, we decide tonight. If you know you don't want to do it, we say no.
I don't want to do it, I don't. Let's take a vote.
I just wanted you to know that was, we don't have to technically let them know till March 1st that we're not going to hear them.
I see that here.
Yeah.
Is anybody ready to vote?
And
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
I prefer not to.
Yeah.
No, we have to do it
because
the right
of the
way,
commercial status.
Yeah. All in favor of not hearing commercial appeals over $1 million, please raise your hand.
Yeah.
Well, so is there a motion on the table? I think this is Kathleen.
We don't have to make a motion, but we will.
We have to make a motion, someone has to second it.
Actually, we don't have to make a motion, we're gonna talk about that later, but let's do it that way, because that's the way we've always done it. I'll make a motion that we do not hear appeals over $1 million for commercial properties. Any property that falls in that category. It's, the commercial, the industrial, utility, apartment properties, that kind of thing. Anything besides residential, let me say it that way.
Okay. This is Carol, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain, okay. So we have one abstention, Peter. All the others are in favor. Okay. Next topic, discussion of BAA handbook, general statutes 203, Robert's Rules of Order, and hearing and deliberating procedures. Okay. Does someone have a particular thing they want to start with? Do you have anything anybody didn't say, or I'll just start, but I'm giving everybody else a chance first. No? Okay, I'll start then. The handbook. I don't know what there is to discuss about it. Has everybody received a copy, and have they all read it and seem to understand? You're in the, that's fine, you're in the process. You have time, we're not
I'm in
doing
the
it now.
process,
So, if
but
anybody
I've
has...
used it.
Yep.
This is Carol. I've used Robert Rules for many other
Okay.
occasions.
So the handbook is the handbook. I mean, it's pretty much a guide. I have no issues with it. I've read it several times. I've highlighted the things that I think are important to me when I'm thinking about making decisions on things. You know, other people might have other ideas, or anything in the handbook that people have a problem with, or that need more clarification, thus far. No? I guess what else we're going to discuss about it? Okay, we're done with the handbook. Connecticut General Statutes 203, Section 203. It's a long section. I read that one too several times. I didn't read the whole thing. I read the things, but I don't work. There's plenty of time. I read it several times. I was paying particular attention to 203, sections 100 through 120. I think that had mostly to do with the Board of Assessment Appeals, and then if you go a little bit farther, it talks about the assessor himself. But there was way too much in there, and since it doesn't apply to me, I stopped. Certainly, you're welcome to read it. I can't really have an issue with the state statutes. That's a statute. I really don't have anything to say about it. It's law. Anybody having a discussion about that? No? It is what it is. We're stuck with it. Okay, next. There was some good stuff in there, though. I did learn from it. There were things I didn't realize that were kind of good, but it was good to learn them and to review them. Robert's Rules of Order and hearings. Let's do Robert's Rules of Order. Okay. Robert's Rules of Order. This is flawed. I just want to start with that because in reading Robert's Rules of Order and going through the book, the 700-page book that I read, not the whole book yet. Don't roll your eyes.
I didn't.
There's a section here called Robert's Rules of Order for boards and something else of 12 members or less. So I read that because we are certainly less than 12. And the reason that they have it is that because it seems to be that, and it is true if you think about the way we did things the last year, how many times we have to stop and say, oh wait, now we have to, oh wait, what about this? We have to, it becomes cumbersome to a small group, and it makes things move much smoother and faster to use these rules, which are Robert's rules, as opposed to the more cumbersome and more strict rules. These are much more relaxed rules. And for a small board, and for this board, because of the way we do business, I've never been to an RTM meeting, but I've heard them, and it sounds like it's much more, this is the way it is, and you have to stand up. I mean, seriously, if we were really following Robert's rules, we should stand when speaking. We don't speak to each other. You have to speak to the chair. We can't do that. We're discussing somebody's appeal. And we are going to have back and forth information. Yes, we have to be courteous. Yes, you have to raise your hand and speak. But we don't need all that other stuff. We just need to get the work done. And these rules make it very easy for us to do. So I'm going to spend more time reading them. I suggest everybody read them. Maybe we can discuss them again at the next meeting, the next organizational meeting or something. But I really think they really work very well for us.
So this is Carol. Paula, are you suggesting that we review them and then we'll have a motion to adopt this abbreviated version for a group, or is that what you'd like to do?
No, I'd like to just decide, but we're going to give everybody a chance to vote, so we're going to do that. Well, we'll do that.
At the next meeting.
At the next meeting. We don't have enough time. We only have an hour, so to go through it now would be too difficult, I think. We're trying to get everything in.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Helene. Do you have, can you send us a link? Is it a separate book?
It's a separate book. It's here, but I can copy the pages.
But is the streamlined version in that book?
It's in this book, yeah.
Oh.
I found it online, but it didn't look like it was a complete version. So I got the book and I was reading that. So I can copy those pages and email them to people, to the rest of the board, so you can look at the whole thing rather than spend the money on the book.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And it would be, that's why I said we don't really have to make a motion. You don't have to make a motion in that individual. For example, the way we used to do it years ago was that the chair would say, okay, appeal number 1, who's got it? Okay, you have it, let's go. And then you'd start it. And then we would say, is everybody ready to vote? And then we would have a vote. There would be you can make a motion if you want. I shouldn't say no motion, but you don't have to second it. It's a much smaller, much easier process. So I think we should take a look at it, just to make our lives easier.
This is Kathleen. Yeah, so the document should just be uploaded to the website too, because we talked about the document in this meeting, because it's a public meeting, we're in COVID, so whatever it is, just needs to be uploaded, I would just put it under the backup under the backup for this meeting, any documents that come up new.
And this is Peter. I guess, we should just, in the meantime, because believe me, they are cumbersome for sure, right? But there is, I believe, in the charter that says we need to follow Robert's rules, so to make sure that we are, in fact, doing, by
That's a
following.
very good point. Peter, you're absolutely right. It does say in the charter that we follow Robert's rules. However, number 4 in the charter, where do I have that, says that we follow Robert's rules unless so stipulated by a board. So I spoke to Betsy Brown about that earlier this week. Right there. No, that's not it. And she said that, I talked about it, and she said she didn't know that. She's like, what? I said, yeah, it's right there, number 4. She said, well, what are you stipulating? I said, well, what do you want to use? I said, I just want to use Robert's short version. She said she thought that was fine. So she doesn't see a problem with it. So I can talk to her again about it. I'll show her. I'll let her make sure she has all of it to look at. And as long as we can stipulate what we want to use, and we're not going to go off the reservation with a whole different rule book, I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. I would just also ask Jim Baldwin, because he's technically as the town attorney, he's the one who interprets the charter for us. So Betsy's a great resource. I would just also include him on those discussions if it's a question of, is it okay with the charter? So that we're not violating the charter.
You have a very good point. However, it says in the charter we can do it if we stipulate. So I don't know who I have to stipulate it with. If I stipulate with him, that's fine. But giving us that permission, I have no intention of being told that we can't use it, just so you know.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. Yeah, I actually went to the Charter Revision Commission and asked them to please clarify what that means. It says unless there's another process otherwise or something. I said, well, how do you define what the other process is? The RTM has rules to regulate, right? So we know that they adopted rules to regulate at some point in time. But if a board doesn't want to use it, what is the proper process? Is it presenting it, and then voting on it? Is it good for, forever for that board, or is it for,
Mm-hmm. So
that would just be good that we had the proper motion for doing whatever we were going to do.
And like I said, I'll be happy to talk to Jim.
Because it isn't that clear in the charter how you go about doing what they tell you can do.
And so to me, that's very true. And to me, somebody who thinks like I think, that means we can do it. And we'll find a way. So if you don't want us to do it, then don't put it in there. But I'll talk to him and see what he has to say. That's a good point. I should check with him. Okay, we're ready for the assessor's update. Oh, wait, is there anything else I forgot? Oh, hearings and deliberations. What do we want to discuss about hearings and deliberations?
This is Kathleen. I don't know, you asked me to put those 4 things on the agenda, those were the 4 you sent me.
I thought we're having more time.
So that's why I put them on there, but,
I guess part of it was some of it was that I want to talk about the hearings where we don't have them recorded and we don't have people on the line. So we'll have to check on that. And the deliberation procedures, I think it had to do with the Robert Rules thing, but certainly we can, we have one more meeting, I think, before we really get started, right? Or no, don't we meet again? Go over the schedule. Oh, no, we can do the schedule a different way. We don't have to meet to do the schedule. Okay.
This is Kathleen. I think we just adopted a meeting date of February 22nd, which is when we'll know how many we have, and then, at some point, if we want the assessor to go through the field cards and explain, the mass appraisal process or whatever technical information, we feel, certainly Carol, at least as a new member, any technical information she would want so that, when you go into the hearings, you're not, because Phil will give you the field card, and you're like, what's this mean? And,
I definitely think it's very important to go over the field card, because even I have some questions about, sometimes I forget some of the stuff.
And how the appraisal process works and all of that.
Some people might want to hear it. I've asked him 3 times to explain that mass evaluation. He's never done it, so I would be pleasantly surprised if he does it at that meeting. So you can certainly ask him to do it.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. So just I would prepare for that meeting. Sometimes that one goes 2 to 2.5 hours. That could be a long meeting, that February one. So just make sure it works on your calendars.
Well, we don't have a lot of time. Was he going to do it? Did he need to speak with us about anything today?
I can call him on my cell and get him to come up.
Tell us, because we only have about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Yeah, and we'll just, as long as one person stays past 6 o'clock, we can, adjourn this meeting, have the regular meeting, and then get those minutes approved so they're not hanging around to do in February. I'd love to get them finished off and off my plate. Okay, so let me call him. Let's see. What is it, 256-3113?
We should make a suggestion that you have an alternate to this
You know what, I was thinking of that this morning, and I forgot to mention it, only till Kathleen gets off the phone.
It's not picking up.
I thought, I was getting a little snooze, and I'm like, it's only 5 of us.
Let me run down, see if I can grab it.
Does anyone know, I was reading this handbook and it generally speaks to the size of a board, this board being 3. Is there a proportion per capita or something where you start to add a 4th and a 5th?
Mrs. Paulette, I honestly don't know, but I know that smaller towns have 3. Like, for example, Trumbull has fewer residents.
No, right, that's
So
what I meant
and I don't
by the
know how they
population.
decide, yeah.
So we've just always had it as 5.
Now, last year we had 9 because it was a year we had that reval, there were so
Oh,
many. 9 people was way too many to handle. It was just, there was no need for 9. I understand why we needed 9 to do the work. And then, of course,
Right.
then you have to have them deliberate because they heard the appeals, but 9 was too many people.
We had 7 at the last reval.
Yeah, I think 7 was more than enough. Even that was a little bit, it's only 2 more people, but that's enough. We don't need more than,
Mhm. So if we're talking about an alternate to 5, if and when someone,
Somebody can't make it, yeah.
because again,
how would you appoint that? since
Well,
we
let me-
just
I-
went through election?
Yeah, so, I was gonna wait till Kathleen came back, but, I did write a letter to, the RTM requesting, appointment of 2 additional people, because this could be a big year, hopefully not as big as last year, but again, so that's.
So what did they say?
They haven't responded yet. They have, they'll still do their response at the January meeting.
Kelly, briefly, we were waiting for you, but we started talking on alternates. Most of us think it would be a good idea to have alternates, because what if somebody gets the flu, or gets COVID, or just can't be there? Then we're back to that 4 people again.
A quorum is a
Right.
quorum. Yeah,
Right.
this is Kathleen. I mean, technically this is a special meeting, so we probably shouldn't be talking off the agenda at a special meeting. But,
Okay, so then we'll
I
wait.
mean, we can add it to the agenda at 6 if we want to talk about it, but, I mean, or we close it out, yeah.
Yeah.
I do know I was at the training the other night, a lot of boards do have alternates, but we don't.
I thought somebody left, that's why.
No, we're all here. Okay, Russ, you're up.
What would you like to know?
Oh, wait, no, it's assessors update from assessors, so we're waiting for you. What do you want to tell us?
We've had about 106 appeals to Superior Court from last year's BAA.
Mm-hmm.
We've settled 6 so far. And we have just about all the rest, probably about another 80 or 90 scheduled for pre-trials through March. So it's going to be pretty busy.
This is Paulette. Was a class action filed by the Fairfield Beach Road people?
No,
So they didn't do a class action?
no. I don't know how you would do that. That's different.
I know
I've
they
never
were
seen
trying,
that
so I don't know, I didn't know.
Yeah, I've never seen that done.
This is Kathleen Ross. Out of the 106, I mean, obviously we heard all 650, we had to have heard them last year, so that's 1/6 of what we heard. How many are commercial and how many were residential?
Doing this off the top of my head, I think there was 36 residential. And so, do the math, 65 commercial?
This
I'm
is
not
Kathleen.
surprised, 'cause a
So
lot
they
of
could
them-
come back, because the residential's right. If you're told no, if you go to court, you can't come back next year. But if you don't go to court and you're denied by the board, you can come back another year. So we could get, except for the 35 residential in a room?
Yeah, about that.
So except for those 35, we could potentially get all the other ones we denied could come back a second time,
Right.
if they wanted to.
Yeah. So I'd expect to probably have 250 this year.
That's not
Like
bad.
that.
It's not 650.
What's that?
It's not 650.
No, it's not 650.
What else? So you had some other things on the,
So I guess just from my office point of view, we just need to know, obviously we need to schedule before February 1st, so, because that's when the applications will start coming in. We need to know how you want them scheduled, reschedules, how those will be handled. And then, once the deliberations start, we need to work on the flow of,
What do you mean reschedule?
well, will you allow a reschedule? So if somebody calls up and says, oh, I can't make that date.
Oh.
And then what happens when that happens at the end of the month when there's no more time? So we need to know how that's going to be handled.
Don't we have precedence on that?
You don't necessarily have to allow a schedule. Some towns have this, the BAA schedule, and they just plug them in as they come in. And you either come in at that time or you don't, and that's it. No reschedule, nothing.
This is Helene. In the past, haven't we always given everybody an opportunity to, if they can't make that time, then it's up to them to reschedule it?
We've tried to accommodate rescheduling in the past, right?
I mean, I think that's the fair thing to do.
Yeah,
Actually, we've actually had people come in and, not many, but we've had maybe 2 or 3 come the day that we start our deliberations and present to the board as the last stragglers. And I don't think, we usually don't have a lot of those people. It's like just less than 5. And we're not encouraging that, but, if necessary. Yeah,
we're trying to,
just to give everybody that last chance.
because the scheduling is complicated and difficult.
And this fall, I agree with Helene, I would be more inclined to say no, don't reschedule if they chose their time. But we give it to them. We don't know who works and there's no way for us to know. So if they're given a time of 11 o'clock in the morning and they have a schedule at work, there's no way. Then they at least deserve one more chance. If they want to do it again, then I would say, no, this is ridiculous. Once, that's it. We can't keep doing it. But I think we should at least give them an opportunity to reschedule once, at least.
Yeah, this is Kathleen. Last year, because there were so many, we took the schedule and we divided it up, the hearings up among all of the board members and gave them all of their appeals ahead of time. So you knew what you were going to hear ahead of time. And then if somebody on your list rescheduled, they were just put with you at another time. Usually, so if you're on from 4 to 9 for hearings, usually the last scheduled one would be like 8:15, so then the person would get you at 8:30 or 8:45 or another time that you were available. We asked the assessor staff to try to reschedule them with the same hearing officer so that, if you'd already prepared for that hearing and then they didn't show, and then they're going to go to somebody else. And we also scheduled them sort of by the neighborhoods so that we heard all one neighborhood in 1 week, and then it was done, and then we could start deliberating on that neighborhood. And then, the next week we said, okay, we're doing Stratfield, this and that. So then all the Stratfield people came in for their hearings, and we could start.
Certain members doing certain neighborhoods so
that
you could.
And we also did the neighborhoods in a specific order so that we could, because usually you don't want to deliberate on a neighborhood until you've heard all of the appeals in that neighborhood, right? Because you never know what's going to come. You start seeing the same comps all the time. Yep. So it was I thought it was helpful last year to have that, in the first week. I think we went through like 2 neighborhoods and they just came in. We just scheduled everybody, we got them done, and then by Saturday we could sit down with that neighborhood and make the decisions on a Saturday and get that neighborhood out of the way. And then next week, because if you've heard 80 or 90, you want to get them off your plate while they're fresh in your mind. So that process worked last year, but I think I did the scheduling. I think you gave me the sheet, and you didn't let anybody know when their hearing was until everything was in. You gave me a spreadsheet. I sorted the data, and I just allocated. I said there's 60 in a neighborhood. I want 3 hearing officers to hear that neighborhood, and we just randomly. So I remember staying up late, but I think it worked.
The deadline this year is going to be February 18th because the 20th is on a Sunday.
I had a question about that. Just Paulette. I realize that the statutes say the 20th. It has to be done by. But even the IRS, if it's on a weekend, gives you another day. Do we have the option of doing that and saying it's due on the 22nd or the 21st?
Statutes don't give you the option.
But the IRS doesn't write it either, but they give it. Did anybody ever ask?
I don't know what the IRS statutes are, or the federal statutes for IRS deadlines, but unless the statute specifically give you that, just like a postmark, certain things are granted a postmark and certain things are not. I think I believe the way the date reads is filed on or before the 20th.
Okay, but nobody's ever questioned that.
Well, it's statutory language.
But nobody ever questioned whether or not you could extend it if it was on a weekend.
Sure.
Nobody
So-
ever physically said, well, wait a minute now, what if it happens on a weekend? Nobody ever questions it, we just do it.
So this is Peter. I would just say, I mean, I guess that's really a question for the town attorney, right? To have him, you know.
I'll be happy to, I'll call the state,
Look at
because
it.
I have all day, so
Okay.
I have no problem calling
Yeah.
the state.
This is Kathleen. I think also you go to press, you go to, if anybody's ever sued, right? You can look for the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And I think he said in training the other night, no one had ever sued on the date.
I just wondered if anybody
Yeah,
ever
the
looked
trainer
into
said that has not been a lawsuit in the state.
I'm sure it's
Set
come up,
precedent.
dates come up,
Yeah.
you know, income and expense deadlines, same thing. There's no postmark allowed on that, where there is a postmark allowed on, personal property. And I know the I&E has been challenged on the, whether it's a postmark or not, and there's actually a pending case right now that has lost all the way through to this Connecticut Superior Court, and it's sitting with the Superior Court right now. But there's been other cases on the postmark, and the on or before has been upheld.
Oh, the other thing, just thought again, the neighborhood thing, I understand why you did it, and I know that it worked well for a lot of people. It didn't work well for me, but I'm just one person. But that works if the neighborhoods are correct, and they're not always. And so because of that, I have a problem with that if I'm doing Strathfield, well, let's say this, I'm doing Fairfield Woods, okay? And then we find out later that several of the people who were put in Strathfield belonged in Fairfield Woods, then I don't really think that's helpful.
Ms. Kathleen, I mean, you can certainly come up with your own groupings of the hearings. You don't have to follow the assessor's neighborhood codes.
Okay.
I just think that it's in the database already. It's a simple field to bring in, sort, and aggregate on, so it's better than completely random, which is what we had always done in the past. And then you're just getting, you're just getting anything on any night. You get a personal property, and then you turn around and you get a beach property, and then you get
I like that, but no, most people don't.
From a hearing perspective for me, and the neighbors saw each other in the lobby, and, they came up together.
I mean, so maybe what we can do is if we follow this same grouping in the hearings, when we are hearing a property and we know that, all right, we're doing Stratfield tonight, and we realize, oh wait, one of these is really not Stratfield, one of them is more Fairfield Woods, then we make note of that, and then that property can be put into the Fairfield Woods.
Yeah, when we
property.
This is Kathleen, when we deliberate, right, we just say, okay, we're not deliberating on that one tonight, because it's really not in the right place.
Put into another, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We can talk more about that on the 22nd. So I have other questions about that, but we don't have time tonight, so we'll talk about it on the 22nd.
What's the next meeting?
22nd.
22nd.
February?
Yes.
Well, we're gonna need to know how to schedule before February 22nd.
Okay, I'll come down and look at them.
Okay.
I can figure out, like, where the street is, what
We
neighborhood.
Yeah, we have to list it all on the agenda.
Out by March 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to list it all on the agenda too. We have to list who's in every hearing and in what room they're in. And we have to, all the backup has to be online with the appeal numbers.
Okay.
All has to be scanned in and online.
Like I said, I have plenty of time.
Okay. So,
Okay, you all set?
yeah.
Okay, I think that's it.
Ross?
Anything else? Okay.
Any questions? I'm in the office all the time.
Thanks, Ross.
Thank you, Ross.
Okay, if we're all done, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Lee. Enjoy your evening.
Yes. And, this goes back to.
You can leave it,
Yeah,
I'll
well,
get it.
Yeah.
So if, I don't know if we have to stop the recording for this meeting? Do you want me to?
Did
why don't you
somebody
just
have
name- Yeah, just name the time, stop it, I will call the line again, and we'll record a separate
Do
meeting.
we have the time the meeting was adjourned?
At 6:10, it's on the wall there.
Since I no longer have a watch, I will not say why. Since I lost it, we will,
6:10
6:10.
PM. Okay, so I'm going to end the call.